What's up, everybody? Today is Friday and I'm off to the shop to go over the build plan of the Fast and Furious Tribute Supra on which we're working right now. I've been teasing this project for months. The Supra build is sponsored by the good folks over at Just Driven. They'll be doing the heavy lifting. I'll get my hands dirty on this build too, but for now, I've been focusing on finding all of the parts that we need to try to make this car as accurate as possible. Now, some of these parts are just unobtainable because they have been discontinued for more than 15 years. So my hopes right now are that basically this car will be accurate enough to be considered a replica, but for now I'm going to just call it a tribute build. Today, I'll be sitting with Daryl, who runs Just Driven, to impress upon him and the build team how this car came to be and the importance of getting it as accurate as we can. I'll get to that right after the break, so we'll see you right after this.
Introducing Breakout, a free audio social app that lets your voice be heard. Collaborate and share with like-minded people and interact in real time. You can create rooms and collaborate with no censorship. We're an audio social network like no other. Users can set up rooms, create content, and turn their social media time into cash. You're already on social media, and now you can monetize while you're sharing, posting, and creating content. In fact, you're able to monetize in many different ways. The data from your content, your app interactions and activities is collected and stored in our B Vault, which you can sell on our market exchange. Link your other social handles to the Breakout app to compile even more data. With Breakout, data equals dollars for you, the user. Breakout lets you own your data and profit from it. Breakout also lets you create non-fungible tokens as yet another way to monetize. For example, you can create rooms or unique art through the Breakout app and turn them into non-fungible tokens that you can then sell on our market exchange. And of course, you can collaborate with companies and brands with sponsorship to monetize just like you do elsewhere. Best of all, you're always mic ready. Let's get ready to break out. Link up, speak up.
All right, guys, here we are at the shop and we've got Craig here, really excited about what's going on today. Today, we're gonna start the series of our MK4 Supra build. This is from the first movie, Fast and Furious. Dude, I'm excited. I'm excited because the fact that we've got Craig here, who actually was the one that owned the initial car, and the studio, in a sense, I'm saying this right, they replicated your car and used your car as the principal movie car. So what a better guy to have to showcase a proper build. Let's get started. Anyway, man, I'm super excited because, you know, we've been doing this for years and you know, we've built so many cars over the years, and you know, there's a difference between paying homage to a car versus a replica. And that's something that you and I just recently talked about. Yeah. A replica car is building something that authentically replicates the car used in the movie or any other car. It doesn't even have to be a movie car.
And then you have the tribute cars. Tribute cars are people who will go out and buy a Supra, maybe paint it orange, put similar wheels on it, a similar wing. Yeah. Maybe they get a version of the graphics. Maybe the seats aren't done, the engine stuff isn't done, the nitro system isn't done, audio system. So there's more tribute cars, but it's really kind of, you know, subjective if you think about it. When you get into replicas, you're trying to faithfully reproduce every detail where possible. And given that we've gone 20 years on, oh God.
How is it? Is it 20 years?
It's 20 years.
20 plus.
20 plus, man. We filmed June of 2000.
Your car was a 94.
Car was a 94. The movie was filmed in the summer of 2000, came out on June 16th, 2001. So it's literally 20 years and a couple of months. So a lot of these parts are just flat out discontinued. Some of them have evolved to do additions and all that. So finding some of these parts, which were pretty odd back in the days, like the head unit for the car, the turbocharger for the car, even the nitrous brackets are discontinued. So getting all that stuff 100% perfect, it's very difficult to do. People like Dave Deshane up in Canada pretty much got it nailed. There's a guy down in Chile, Rapidio Furioso Chile, I think is the guy's name, right?
Yeah.
That's his Instagram handle. He's doing a pretty good job. He's actually in the midst of redoing the car.
I know you've discussed this on a lot of your videos. I've been following you for years, and I've watched a lot of your videos. One of the things that I find most interesting is your car was a 94.
Right.
You know, we kind of know how you got involved with Universal as a technical advisor. We've all seen those videos, and it's really super interesting. But pertaining to this car, when you and I started talking about doing this, we thought, you know, with that recent sale of what was, I don't even know, was
Paul Walker
that
stunt car?
yeah,
Stunt
the
one.
Hero, was that a Hero 2 or
Stunt one.
Stunt 1 car? 550,000, I think, is what it sold for. Insane amount of money. We're just having a conversation about, all right, why don't we build another one? But let's build one really well done. And that's how this conversation started. And then you and I agreed, all right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And
I'm
you
still kicking myself.
well, you and I both, all of us included, because we've started researching parts. Holy crap. Now, you know I build retired cop cars, right?
Right.
And I love SSP Mustangs. I love Fox Body Mustang, especially CHP cars. I mean, sitting around this shop, I've got a Trooper car and I've got a CHP Mustang being commissioned down the road. I'm having a hell of a time finding original parts to make this car an authentic, back to original in-service condition. We're realizing the Supra is the same exact problem. And it's even more difficult because your wheel selection.
Yep,
Did you pick those wheels?
I did.
You picked the wheels.
I picked the wheel.
So let me back up a little bit, because when you bought this car, were you already involved in the
I
franchise?
had nothing to do with it. I
Okay.
got walked by a Supra with my 347 stroked and supercharged Mustang, and I said, "That's it, man. I'm going turbo." And so
What kind of Fox Body car?
Fox Body, a 93 GT with the 347 stroker, a Vortec S-trim cog drive, 12
Really?
rib pulley and all that.
Oh, I think I
big
saw a picture of that
injectors
car.
and all that. It was 72 pounds an hour injectors, all that kind of stuff. Long tube headers, light and fly, all that other bullshit.
What year was this?
It was a 93. I built it from scratch.
So, and you decided, okay, I got to have a.
I got to have a Supra. If I'm going to get gapped.
So, what year did you start looking?
1998, and I was driving down the road one day in a company car, and I see up on this, you know those ramps they put out inside of those car dealers, and they put a car up on top of. So
Yeah.
I'm driving down this road over in Inland Empire somewhere, and I see this place. They had a lot of really cool cars and trucks that were really clean, Chevys and Fords and all that. And they had this one white Supra sitting up on there, and I went, so I pulled it.
So, it was a white Supra?
It was a white Supra.
Twin turbo car?
Twin turbo, 6 speeds, 24,995. I said, I give you 23 cash.
How many miles were on it?
36,000.
So, dude, $25,000.
He didn't know what he had.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. So I go to my bank, one of my branches of bank. I was at Citibank or Wells Fargo, whatever, doesn't matter. Got a cashier check, came over, and then he called the bank to check it. And
This was in 98?
this was in 1998.
So, it was 4 years old.
5 years.
Car was
Well,
4
years, yeah.
The car was 4 years old because it was a 94.
94, but we probably bought it in late 93. But
Okay, yeah.
So 4 years old-ish.
Wow.
So I get the car, and then I realize, I get the paperwork, and I get the keys, and I'm like, how the fuck am I going to get home?
Really?
I didn't think about it.
Oh, because you had a company car.
Yeah, so I called my buddy Cliff, who was my graphic designer at the time. I was working at IBOC, and I said, we got to come down here after work. And he goes, okay.
That's funny.
So he drove my
Bone stock, original wheels,
bone
or did it have
stock,
aftermarket
chrome,
wheels?
those chrome wheels.
Had a wing?
It had the wing.
Okay.
And
Wow.
So I got the car home.
Never painted, never wrecked.
Never
clean
nothing,
car.
nothing.
No Carfax back then.
The
but
one thing it had was a walnut overlay dash thing. Some dude had bought
Oh,
this,
right.
one of those peel-on, stick-on, to put wood trim on it.
Yeah, yeah.
I ripped that off before I even put the car in the garage, literally.
Oh, wow.
So that night, I go on to Summit's website. Was it Summit's website? I think, yeah, it was Summit's. And I ordered a nitrous system for the car right out of the gate, right? And that was number one. Within 3 days, it was down at Gretty, and they were doing the intercooler.
Oh, shoot.
And
You didn't waste any time.
I didn't around. And then right after that, it went to Stillen to do the body kit. So we had the urethane front and then the side skirts. And then we had a rod mill and wing that I added. And then I sent it over to the paint shop, which has been my paint shop since then. 1990, They painted almost every car I've ever owned, except the ones that I didn't modify. And so I said, I want to do Mazda RX-7 Competition Yellow.
What was it?
Mazda Competition Yellow,
Yellow, okay.
from the RX-7s.
Interesting.
Because I wanted to be a magazine car.
CYM.
That's CYM color.
CYM,
Yeah, nice.
So
Competition yellow mica.
that's
Icon
it.
color.
Okay, so now I want to ask you technical questions because look, at the end of the day, we're building a replica of that car.
Right.
All the pictures that I've seen of your car, including the pictures of the magazine shots shows a black engine bay.
Right.
Who painted the engine bay black?
We did.
When it was painted yellow?
Yes, when it was painted yellow, we painted it. And
so when they painted it yellow, did they do the jams? They did everything but the engine bay?
Everything but the engine bay.
Okay, okay. Because I was wondering why, okay, so black engine bay came from when you had it painted yellow. And then of course it went to your graphics guy and he did all your graphics. Now you didn't have the wing or the body kit that was in the movie car, right? That was a different body?
All Stillins. It was all urethane stuff. Okay. And it was bonded to the body. So they used like a urethane filler or whatever it is. So there wasn't a seam, there wasn't any screws that you could see. It was all blended. Okay. So you got in there, it looked like factory. It literally looked like factory.
Really?
It was all seamed and everything.
We understand how you got involved in the movie and how you became technical advisor, because that car is why you became technical advisor, or no?
Yeah. So,
because tell me a little bit about how that happened.
So I was going to a lot of car shows at that time, right? So in the car, I had different wheels on it, but body kit, my paint color, and gritty graphics and all that. So I'm standing out this car show in Manhattan Beach or Redondo Beach, one of those places. This old white guy comes walking up to me, who was probably the same age I am now, but back then. That's how old I am, right? Yeah. So he's got this Hawaiian shirt. It was David Martyr. Oh, wow. David Martyr's talking to me, and he's, just asking basic questions about the car. And then he said goodbyes and went away. By this time now, I was working for Naira, which was Super Street Magazine. Okay. I was at the Peterson building. So I get a phone call from this guy. And he says, hey, looking to work, doing a little movie here. And I saw this ad for Naira, and I thought maybe we could talk. I said, sure, come to my office. David Martyr shows up. And so he says, yeah, we're doing this movie. It's going to be called Redline. We're looking for tuner cars and all that. And he looks up on the wall. There's a picture of Turbo Magazine that had already shot a feature of my yellow Supra. He says, I'm looking for cars like that. I saw a car just like that down at the car show like a week ago.
He didn't realize?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I said, that was my car. He goes, really? Do you have it here today? I said, no. And he says, hey, why don't we go to lunch? I said, all right. So we go to lunch. Delmonico's down the street in Beverly Hills. Remember there, the Wilshire?
Oh, yeah.
And so we go there, and he pulls a script out, and he opens his wallet, puts $100 on the button. He says, here, look, I know your time is valuable. I want you to read this script and get back to me with your thoughts. So I get on an airplane.
How thick was the script?
So 100 and something pages about
for Redline, and it said Redline.
It said Redline. Yeah. It didn't say anything about Fast and Furious. That name didn't exist. So I get on an airplane. I'm with my wife at the time. We were flying to Budds Creek, Maryland, and I'm reading this script, and I was like, holy yeah. It's cliche. They got him in a 3000 GT, then they're going to put him into an Eclipse. The dialogue was wrong. They were quoting parts like they just went blindfolded in the Summit catalog and mixing terms and all that kind of stuff. So I come back. That's what I was spelled politically correct, and we had another meeting, and I said, well, it's clear you've done a lot of research. There's some things I would consider changing. You don't put this car here. You're kind of going down in the food chain because this is great stuff. This is great stuff. I'm going to bring you up to Universal. I said, okay, I'll send you an invite and get you over there. So I show up at the guard gate, and I pull up, and there's this angry-looking buff dude, right? He looks like kind of like a mean Forrest Whitaker, okay? That's what he looked like. But he goes, what's your name? Craig Lieberman. He goes, I'll be right back. He's here. Okay, click. And stay right here, and a little golf cart comes up with a little blue siren on that.
Yeah, right.
Right on. Are you Lieberman? Follow me. Pulls me over to the commissary. Yeah. Stops, gets out of the golf cart. He grabs these 4 stanchions and puts them around the car with a velvet rope. Don't go outside of this circle.
That's cool.
Right? So I got a pass. I still have that pass. It's
just for within that circle.
It's right next to the commissary. I've been there, right? To
I have.
So you go to the commissary.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and it's a hot day, right?
That's
and I have the roof off, and it's a hot day. And this whole fucking entourage comes down.
Oh, yeah.
Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, Rob Cohen.
Oh, so all the guys were there.
Doug Claiborne, Creighton Bellinger, one of the scriptwriters, and all that. So this is all covered in the behind the scenes, the Redline DVD. So if you watch that, it's behind the scenes. You see Paul get in the car when it's yellow and all that.
Yeah.
So Rob, we're talking. He says, why don't you take me for a ride? And I said, okay. So you know where I'm coming out of the gate, Lancashire Gate, I think it is. Yeah. And I get on the 101. I'm going north, and I roll into it in second gear, right? And it had the big single on it by that time, and then I roll into it, third gear, flying up the on-ramp at about 125 miles an hour, and he leans over to me and goes, is that the NOS? I said, no, that's the turbo! And so he got a kick out of that. So we pull back over, and we stop over there again, and the tram comes around the car in the corner, and he recognizes Rob Cohen. Maybe they knew each other. I never got the tail end of that story. Oh, hey, Rob, what are you doing? You working on another movie? Yeah, I'm going to put this car in my next movie. And I'm like, he is? Cha-ching.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's when the light turned on.
That's when the light turned on. So they brought me upstairs, and they had the grease board up there.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about the food chain in the car, I just went up there, and then I started to race it, and I realized I was probably important.
Oh, it was their board?
What was their board?
That's awesome.
What blew me away was it looked like everything I thought a movie producer's office would look like. Picture with him with Arnold Schwarzenegger, because they did Running Man together and all that stuff. Stacks of scripts, presumably all over his desk, and he's looking at all the stuff, all that kind of.
That's cool.
And so that was just like, oh wow, this is crazy. And so we're in about 5 minutes of the discussion. Okay, you're hired, and I said, hired for what? I have a job.
Yeah, right.
You're going to be our technical advisor.
Who said this to you?
Rob Cohen.
Oh, Rob Cohen. That's awesome.
So,
That's freaking awesome.
So they treated me like gold.
Yeah.
Because I'm nobody, still am nobody, but they always treated me like gold.
Well, I love this story, and I love how this all came to fruition, because at the end of the day, it was that MK4 that really started this for you. So I kind of get why you have such an attachment to that car, because your Maxima. What else did you own that was in movies? I had the
Skyline that was Too Fast, Too
That's
Furious.
right.
The Paul's car.
Those all came after.
Yeah.
So the MK4 is what started this whole thing, hence the reason to do this. So we're not just doing this because it's just another replica build. We're doing this because this is what really got him started. Craig and I go way back. We've known each other for a long time. And I thought, having built so many replica cars, this is the perfect car to build, because if anyone knows the car and how it was built, it will be you. So with all that being said, right, when did it be, what color was it? What's that orange color?
The orange was a Lamborghini color. It was a Rancio Ishtar, as I recall.
So at what point in the discussion did the car, when it was decided, okay, this is the color we're going with, these are the graphics, these are the wheels, because did you have those wheels on it when it was yellow?
No, those wheels were C2. They looked like BBS wheels, the mesh wheels that come.
So they didn't want to use your yellow car.
Okay, so here was the deal.
Why didn't they want to use it the way it was?
As a technical advisor, don't forget there was a co-technical advisor, RJ DeVera. He was involved in the process as well.
Remember?
So we were he would be bringing out the options magazines and all that kind of stuff, and I'd be bringing up Super Street, Sportcom, and we'd have conversation. So very early, a fellow by the name of Erickson Gore he's the DP, the director of photography. He had this vision. There was a feature that was on the DVD on the original. I have to look it up again, where he was literally out there talking about color palettes. Now, a lot of people note that there was a very warm look to the movie, like an orange filter. And the photographers, you'll know what I'm talking about. You use warming filters or cooling filters. So in order to capitalize on that, they had to do something very special with the cars that belonged to the stars. All the cars that belonged to stars needed very bright primary colors, but they were going to be muted and warmed through the filters. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now I wasn't there to see them put filters on the lenses, so I don't know if it was, in production or post-production process. But my understanding that it was a combination of both, because there's color adjustments that they make anyway in post. So that means that all cars had to be bright colors. So the yellow, for whatever reason they didn't like it, they asked us to recommend colors. I recommended a candy apple red, which I was a big fan of candy apple red, bright orange, and a bright blue. Okay. Because all of those colors I could have lived with had they give me the car back in that condition. The Maxima they left alone because it was already Viper GTS blue. And
so you went and bought the Maxima. I want to keep.
It was my wife's commuter car.
No way. So it was modded.
Yeah, so she had a 96, and then she wanted one with a leather interior, so I bought her the 98. And she was driving that, and she decided that, leather was her suit. And so I started driving for commuting, and she wanted to buy something else. We bought a Lexus GS 400, which was actually used in the background of the movie. And so they took that car, it had the reverse mount hood and all that bullshit, and supercharged and all that. So it was already blue. I said, F it. Take it and paid it. I don't want a white car. I wanted blue. That was the beginning of my blue thing. So they took that car, and then we were going through all the motions to figure out the colors of the other cars. We had House of Color as a partner, so we were looking through all their Shimrin line and all that kind of stuff to figure out.
Good partner.
Good partner.
Yeah.
Good partner.
So, so Supra, when did they tell you, all right, orange is going to be the color? Obviously, you're going to have to work with their co-sponsors. So whoever their co-sponsors were likely going to be the parts you were going to retrofit to your car, right?
No.
Oh, so how did the wheels, how did the wing, how did the body kit, how did all that stuff come to be? Now let's stop for a minute. Under the hood, was there more stuff you added to it?
We changed the hoses. The yellow hoses were ditched in favor of the orange hoses.
To color match.
You're right, there's silicone hose kits.
Although it was never shown in the movie.
It was never shown in the movie.
The only engine bay shot was the NA car when the...
Not true.
No? There was another
a vertical shot up PCH where you can see through the
through the grill,
through the chicken wire. You see the chrome inlet pipe right there with the blow off valve.
That's not really a motor shot, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's the only way you can tell the hero car from the other cars. And I swear to you, when all 5 of them were lined up, I couldn't tell my car unless I looked at the brakes or the holes in the hood.
Interesting.
That's how good
the chrome.
That's how good. Okay.
And we'll get into that because that's a whole other subject about the engine build.
The parts came about like this. I had already been working with Gretty, with Kenji and Charles Shepard, but to get the gauges and the I wanted to stick with one tuner because I knew this was going to be a magazine car, and I didn't want to have bits and pieces of other, HKS this, Apex that, Gretty this. I want to stay loyal to one supporter. So, as a technical advisor, it was my job to get the parts and recommend parts for the cars. So we looked at different body kits like Dulac, Bomex was a big one. Veilside, they had that crazy wide body kit for which was going to be too difficult to replicate. We didn't have the budget. So we looked at all that stuff. And so we called a lot of these companies and said, would you be interested in helping us? And the ones that said no, that was pretty much the end of that because it was Redline at the time, it wasn't a thing. And the ones that said yes, okay, then we present those parts to the producers and to my boss. And pretty much David Martyr said, okay, well, the art department has some say in this and all that kind of stuff. We made recommendations. They didn't always take the recommendation. We're just advisors. Yeah. The art department, has a hand in this and they have a vision for the car and all that kind of stuff. When it came to the graphics, I suggested that we don't do any graphics on the cars, but we make sure that with the background cars have a lot of graphics. That way these cars would stand out. Right. They went the other way. They decided to do...
That sounds like it. Yep.
Yeah, they contracted Troy Lee. For those who don't know who Troy Lee is, I know all of us. He does motorcycle graphics, helmets, all that stuff. And the guy's a legend. He's got a brand T-shirt. The guy's been around since Jesus lost his sandals in the desert, right? But he's a very talented guy. So they went to him and he created these designs. But technology wasn't up to the task back then. You couldn't have like multi-layered graphics produced like in one print process.
No way,
back then.
It's just layers upon layers.
So those decals are layers upon layers with airbrushing in between. All the fade shadow, that's all hand airbrush. So you put down a couple of layers and then you put down a shadow.
Crazy.
Then you put another layer on top of that, then some shadows to that, and so forth and so on.
That's crazy.
And each one is hand cut for the car. I mean, so they cut it to length, right? They print it off to a certain length and they cut it. And so no cars are exactly the same because the green cuts off at a little bit different place on each car and this thing is forward. And then that's basically how the graphics came. So that's how the parts came together. That's how the paints came together. And then the graphics came together.
Who decided on the wing?
Well, they wanted, I think the exact quote was, we want shopping cart wings.
Okay.
We want big, giant shopping cart wings.
Okay. All right.
The Honda Civics, it was like, we wanted a bumper that looks like a giant shark mouth.
Okay.
Okay, so they picked out a very specific bumper for that car, and that's how that happened.
So who set out to build the car in its final on-screen condition?
It was a collaborative effort.
How long did it take?
These guys were amazing. People, Tim Woods is a guy his name sticks in my head. There was a whole bunch of other people, and I'm sorry I can't remember their names. I have to go back to the credit. But they were some amazing people. These guys, I was laughing when they told me, we're going to build 8 copies or 7 copies of your cars, and we're going to do it in 4 weeks. And I was like, you guys are crazy. You know how long it took me to build that car? It's 4 weeks in paint alone. So we'll have it done in like 5 days. Okay, you do you, boo.
So they went out.
5 days later, they're turning out cars.
That's crazy.
Fucking hell.
7.
7.
How many were made?
There were a total of 8, but 1 was not painted. It was a silver car used on soundstage. It was a process.
And when did they decide they're going to take your car and use your car? Was your car built to replicate the other cars from?
No. Well, no. My car was, all we did is change the body kit, the paint color, the wings, and the graphic. Everything else stayed the way it was. Okay. This is why the roll cage is yellow in all the toy cars and all the replicas.
I was going to ask you that,
because they didn't want to pull the roll cage out.
I see.
And then repowder coat it, only to have to repowder coat it again. Right. So that's why that's that.
I've seen some other tribute cars, replica cars that don't have yellow roll cages.
Yeah, but every time I see one with a yellow cage, I cringe. I was like, why didn't I do that? I should have just done it. Yeah. I should have just taken it out. But I always had the intent to have the car go back to yellow. Yeah. And then, of course, afterwards, people told me, don't change the color. It's a movie car now.
Was it a decent paint job?
I think it cost me an arm, a leg, and a vial of sperm.
No, when it was yellow.
All the yellow was fantastic. It was the same body.
But when they painted it orange, who paid to paint it orange? The studio?
The studio paid.
And was it a decent job?
Yeah. it went to my shop.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Did your shop do all the other cars too?
No,
Okay.
because back then, I mean, they're movie cars. You know this.
No, of course.
You do it every day. So that basically they sanded, they scuff and buff.
I mean, how long ago was this? 20 years ago?
20 years ago.
How much did it cost to paint the car?
$8,800.
That was a lot of money back 20 years ago.
Especially
Huge
when I
money.
was the paint. I paid for the first paint job myself.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I paid for it.
Been
But
there, done that.
They give me a $15,000 reconditioning fee to paint it back to yellow.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, I paid for my jacuzzi.
Cha-ching. So, all right.
You
So,
think I'm kidding?
no, I believe you. So here's what I find interesting, right? They didn't have anything to do with what was under the hood.
Well, any good car needs brakes, so.
So did you put brakes
That was
on it when
already-
it was
the car
yellow?
Performance-wise, it was done.
So they didn't have to do exhaust, brakes, anything under the hood other than hoses. That was all you.
That was.
They
even the
just made it
hoses,
orange and graphics and wheels.
They didn't touch any
And
of the
body
performance.
kit.
They didn't touch the suspension. They didn't
And
touch
shopping
the
cart
under
wing.
the shopping cart wing was the
Okay.
exception from the outside. The body kit is the body kit that they chose based on presented options. So we did, like I said, Duluck, Bomex. My friend Neil Chin, who has his own YouTube channel, he had a contact with Mikado over at Bomex. So I'm sure that sold thousands and thousands and thousands of body kits because people were putting that body kit on everything.
What's that body kit called?
It's called the Craig Lieberman. I have no idea what it's.
Are we talking about the
call
movie
it-
car body
We're
kit?
talking about the movie bar.
Yeah, on Bomex, I'm not sure what they call it, but I know the replica one's called the ballistics.
Yeah, the ballistics kit. Yeah. So, I mean, because a lot of people replicated that body kit.
All the people who helped me with the builds, I'm very thankful for those people because you got to remember, I was nobody. The movie was nothing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a franchise yet. It was just.
You just never know how this
just
stuff's
don't
going to work
know.
out. And when we first talked about doing this, I asked you, should we do a screen tribute car? So in other words, we don't have to get crazy with the stereo equipment. We don't have to get crazy with all the interior, amps and NOS bottles and all that crap because, that stuff is hard to find. That's 20-year-old stuff. And so we had that discussion, and then I started thinking about it, and I thought, there's plenty of guys that have built tributes, and honestly, that $550,000 stunt one car that sold at the auction didn't have any of the stereo equipment in it, didn't have the dash.
You got to remember, that car was reused in part 2.
I know.
It was literally. So that car had been torn apart and completely redone.
Right.
Okay, so they had different nitrous setup in the back,
Right.
had different gauges, had different upholstery in the car, had a different roll cage in the car. A lot of stuff had been changed on the car. So whoever restored it back to kind of a little bit of part 1, a little bit of part
Right.
2, but missing a whole shit ton of equipment.
Yeah. And I will tell you, the challenge that we're going to have in this project is tracking down all of the original stuff to replicate your car. Not the movie cars, not the cars that were actually used on set. Now, mind you, your car was used on set. I don't know what percentage of time your car
It
got
was used in the
used.
PCH scene. It was pulled out of the garage.
Okay.
So basically, that was it that I witnessed. I don't know what else.
Okay.
It was actually at Race Wars too. It pulls up at Race Wars.
Okay. All right.
So, and I remember seeing it, watching it, making sure none of the girls with studded belts were leading on my
Yeah,
car.
right.
Then I realized that they're paying to fix it, so
Doesn't
have
really
at it,
matter.
man. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter, as long as
yeah.
I'm not smoking the car. But yeah,
So-
getting the parts, we'll get at least 95% of the stuff.
Yeah.
So we've already, already started looking at stuff. The stereo pieces will be a little bit difficult because they're literally, the molds are gone.
I know.
They're literally gone. So we're gonna have to build certain replicas or covers, just like
I know.
Hollywood do it if they were doing it, right?
I know.
Because there was the gauges on the movie cars. Here's a little fun fact for you. We didn't have the budget to go out and buy all the gauges, and Gretty didn't have the budget to just give us thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of gauges for 8 cars. So what we did is we took the gauges, put them on a scanner, scanned them, right? Scanned the face of the gauge, and then my wife cut them out on paper and glued them into gauge pods that we formed ourselves with a vacuum forming machine using one of the original 8-pod gauges molders,
Of course.
as a mold. And so those weren't even real gauges. This is why all the windows on the cars and the Fast and Furious movies were tinted very
course.
dark.
Yeah.
So when they're driving, we didn't want you to be able to see inside that most of that stuff
Right.
was bullshit.
Wow.
Well, and a lot of times they do that because they don't want to see this stunt double driving the car.
Stunt drivers,
Right,
yeah.
there's
But-
that. If you take a look at, you remember Triple X, the movie, the Pontiac GTO?
Of course.
Remember the gauge pods? You know what those were made out of? Red Bull cans.
Oh,
Sweet.
True story.
that makes sense.
They
That
were
would
in
work,
Prague
yeah.
or whatever they were doing, and they didn't have, they
man.
couldn't get that stuff over there. This is back before
Awesome.
FedEx was really a huge thing,
Oh,
so
my
they just got
goodness.
some Red Bull cans and Eddie Paul in the group. Those
so
cars
cool.
are built in the same warehouse as the Fast and Furious cars.
Oh, really?
Yes, Eddie
Nice.
Paul, who
Oh.
passed away. several years ago. So yeah, we got our work cut out for us. There's some stuff that we'll just never ever get.
I know.
And
Well,
so
we're
gonna have to make
we're
up.
realizing that now. So the way we've got this scheduled, right? So James, longtime Supra owners, had many of some of the nicest Supras I've ever laid eyes on, all MK4s. Alex is a technical guy, lives and breathes 1Js and 2Js. And, so when you and I started talking about doing this, of course, I engaged with him immediately. And the first question was, let's modernize it a little bit and let's put a better turbo. Let's get rid of the turbo lag. Let's build it right. Now, here's where the challenge lies, right? MK4s, real twin turbo, 6-speed Supras are off the chart. I mean, clean ones, even junky ones are off the chart.
6 figures.
6 figures.
Well into the 6 figures.
Right. Now you get one with 200,000 miles that's, seen some wear, but all there and relatively stock, they're still $60,000 to $75,000.
I'm seeing right-hand drive autos for 65 grand.
That's nuts.
It's insane.
It's crazy.
It's really insane.
$30,000 car.
So taking on this endeavor, now when I restore a car and when I build a car, everything that comes out of this shop, it's more than just a shiny, nice, laser straight paint job. It's all the moldings that surround that paint. It's the glass. You can't have old window regulator rollers scratching the glass. It has to have perfect glass. So headlights, taillights, marker lights, every single thing, the cowl cover, the plastic cowl cover, 20-year-old Japanese cowl cover isn't going to be trim black anymore. It's going to be white or gray if it's lived most of its life outside.
Between,
Now, mind you, a lot of these Supras have been treated with kit gloves and live indoors, and most of the trim is in decent shape. But almost every one we've found, this Supra, this MK4 here, it's a 50, what is it, Alex, 50,000 miles? I can't remember.
40. It hasn't even turned 50.
So it's a
49K.
40,000 original mile car, and all the trim is in really fantastic shape. The problem is finding one that's a Targa, that's left-hand drive, that's got a 2J in it and a 6-speed, is $125,000, maybe $150 if it's in that condition. So under the cover here, that we're going to reveal to you, because you haven't even seen this car yet. So what we have under the cover here now is the car we've acquired. It took some time to find it. Now, with that being said, we really don't have a budget. Here's where it gets interesting. Before we show you this car, you've been helpful in getting the word out on wings and wheels, and I can't believe you actually found wheels, original wheels for us, which we have. We've got to change the offset a little bit to accommodate this car. The wing, you were able to locate the wing. I understand the skags are a little bit off. We'll walk over there and showcase that. The car we ultimately found has a 1J in it, and it's got a manual transmission. I don't even know what tranny it is.
It's a R154. It's the good 5-speed.
Okay.
Yeah,
but we want the 6, right?
We wanted a 6-speed. We wanted to be. Alex, tell us why you decided we can't do a 1J. What?
No, we bought a 2J GTE that needs a rebuild from JDM in California. We are going to be doing a brand new CD-OA from Nissan. Brand new, they still exist. You can order them
6-speed in the box.
Counter. Yeah.
What's that out of a 350Z?
It's out of a
370.
350Z. No, because the 370s then had the eccentric internal slave. So it's still like a brand new CD-09.
Okay.
So the CD-09 came with the fork, and still it comes all brand new, assembled by Nissan.
And not $15,000.
Not $15,000.
And they still make parts for it.
Yes.
Right.
Unlike
because it's just a used
V160s.
How much is the original
A
6-speed?
used V161 is 11 grand right now.
That's crazy.
And there's no, it just makes no sense. We do the CD-OA, Serial 9 adapter kit with a tilt and triple disc. We're in it less than half.
There you go.
Great gearbox.
And we've acquired that.
Yeah.
And we've acquired the 2J. We don't know what the miles are on that 2J, but
doesn't matter. It's going to be
and
rebuilt.
I really didn't care because they said it's got some sludge in it. You guys should rebuild it. And I said, perfect.
right.
We're going to tear it down.
We would do that
What do the
anyway.
cylinders
Rebuild it.
look like?
So what do you guys what do you guys think about your engine bay has this really unique cover on the turbine, and I love it.
Here's the deal. You got to remember it's a different time. If it would have been done today, that motor would look very different. If you look at my R35, it's just a different time. So, and the car show thing, I was rolling with Art in Motion back in the day. So it's trying to, have that kind of magazine cover kind of car.
Yeah, right.
Along with, you go to Hot Import Nights with Art in Motion, RJ and his mom and that big crew. Like I just put a little neon bar up at the front of the radiator shrouds to put some light on the engine bay. You're trying to win trophies and all that. So there was more polish and chrome and other bullshit under that would have no place in a modern build today. So there's that. So the valve cover, I didn't like the chrome ones. I didn't like the flat ones. I didn't like the billet ones. Everybody was using the same shit, all the super guys from Texas and all that. And I didn't want to do that because it just looked to me too like old white guy. It's the same kind of shit you would be putting on small block Chevys back then. And I didn't want to take anything from the domestic scene and apply that in the tuner scene. So I had a guy take the coil cover off and send it out to get treated like, you remember Oakley sunglasses? That you have they had that plastic finish, right?
Oh,
you could buy black chrome is what it was called.
Yes.
So it was like black chrome. It was shiny and semi-reflective, but it was smoked chrome basically is what it was. And I had never seen another one on
Was that dipped or was that sprayed on?
I'm pretty sure it was sprayed because the guy who did it was
that
spraying
shiny?
glasses. Yeah, it was shiny. And it was clear coat.
I mean, that stuff's nearly impossible to find today.
What, the spray paint?
The chrome spray paint you see at Pep Boys that's got the chrome thing and you can see yourself in, you spray it on, it's gray, silver.
Yeah.
You can't see yourself in the spray.
It's not. Did anybody actually buy chrome spray and expect it to be reflective?
Yeah,
Really?
me. I mean, the fourth bottle in, I'm like, this is not true. So yeah, no, I was the idiot that bought all those cans. But
there is a coating process to be done.
it is, and it's not easy to find, especially in California, because the state of California hates anything to do with the automotive industry, and especially any chemical.
Solvents, yeah.
So with that being said, we're gonna have to look into our options for that. I think I have an idea for that, but we'll cross that bridge. But what about making it more powerful? Now this Supra right here, Alex built this thing. This is the 2J car. And Alex, what turbo are we running and what power? And this thing pulls like a freight train.
Yeah, this thing rips from down low. It starts making boost under $3,000.
Wow.
And we're revving to 7,500, where back in the early 2000s, I think you guys were stuck at 7K.
Yeah.
Nobody was revving past.
Nobody, not really.
So when we changed the oil pump, the oiling system, everything's better. It's a G30 770. It's making about just shy of 670 wheel on E85. No nitrous.
What kind of boost? How many pounds?
22.
22?
I mean, back in the early 2000s, 2Js were running 2-bar plus all day long.
Yeah. To make power.
Yeah.
For me, anything you do inside the engine is fine because nobody's going to see it. As long as the turbo is clocked pretty much in the same position as it is in the movie.
Right.
And it's oriented to face parallel to the block.
Right.
Then you're okay. And the heat shield.
Which from what I saw on your T66, it was just oil cooled, right?
Yeah. So the heat shield was custom made. It had a bead roll at the forward lip, right? And it had an L bracket. I forget what they attached it to. There was some mounted back at probably the wastegate, I guess. But
because you had ABS in your car.
We did.
So it probably had an L bracket either to the tower or to the ABS system.
I remember it not being able to see unless it was down below.
So Craig, your turbo sat back
straight.
farther and straight.
Correct.
Right? And then the fan shroud or that shroud took up this entire. So it made it look like it was a. It
actually sat about there. Looking at where his compressor housing is to this fitting.
Yeah, close.
It's
very
close to this, but that shroud went from that center section all the way back.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was super long.
Do they still have the apex blow-off valve that car had? Because believe it or not,
you have to find it used.
Okay, but that blow-off valve
makes a special noise.
Makes a special noise. Yep. That was the one of two cars that wasn't manipulated in the sound file process.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that one and the Maxima.
Oh, there you go.
Those two cars were pretty much exactly the way they sent.
Well, because it had an adjustable.
Yeah, you turn the little dial.
Yeah. You limited the amount of air that went out, you'd get turbo surge.
So why don't we show you this car?
Oh God.
So you haven't seen this car yet. It looks nothing like this one.